Roll call, please.
We have Mr. Kirschner, Mrs. Browning, and Mrs. Spannenberg present.
Thank you. Next, we have our Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join us as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the record show that our special session on September 21st, 2021 is a discussion for the collective bargaining agreement, a draft of the contract between Carmel Clay Schools and CTA, our Teachers Association. Mr. McMichael.
Thank you. I'd like to begin this morning by offering some thanks to some people. First to Mark Ween and members of the Carmel Teachers Association. We managed to come to a tentative agreement in a very cooperative and collaborative way, and it's important that we not take that for granted. The CTA has a representation of over 80% of our teachers are members of the CTA. That too is very important because by Indiana law, the CTA represents all teachers, whether they participate or not. And so it's really comforting to me to know that the vast majority of teachers want this organization to represent them, and as a result of that, they do participate and they do join the association, and that's good for Carmel. It's good for Carmel schools, and it's good for the community of Carmel. Also, I'd like to thank Tom Ostrag. Tom somehow managed to come here a couple of years ago and establish a very trusting relationship with Mark and others in the CTA, and that doesn't happen automatically either. And without that trust, we wouldn't be here this morning presenting a contract proposal to you that will be the largest increase for teachers in over 20 years. And we're fortunate that the state provided more money this biennium than they had in the past 20 years. And so we're appreciative of that as well. So the proposed contract then is a 2-year contract. So it covers this biennium. In the first year, it provides for a 4.5% increase to the salary schedule plus increment. And our increment, that's important because about 75% of our teachers receive an increment, so they're not at the top of the salary schedule yet. And so they it's important to note that they receive we would call the across-the-board increase of 4.5% plus that step increase. And then in the second year, it provides for a 3% schedule increase plus, again, the increment. This results in beginning salary in the first year of minimum salary of $41,620, and in the second year, it increases to $42,869. So I know you're aware of a general goal by the state to have a minimum starting salary of $40,000. So we're beyond that, and we're very pleased about that as well. And I want to mention again that this also would not be possible without the generous support of our community, who has approved an operating referendum for us. Other changes, there are a number of changes. There are several with regard to leaves, and all of which you have in front of you. But a couple of the leaves that we think are particularly important is that we combined really the maternity and the child rearing leave. And so we had a situation where an employee could take a maternity leave, and then after returning for a short time could take up to 2 years of child rearing. And so the challenge with that is that that employee was then on a leave and oftentimes did not return, but in the meantime, their replacement was oftentimes not on a permanent contract because it was a leave. And so it came down to trying to balance that between the interest of the employee that might need the leave as compared to the employee that is here working for that person. So we thought that was important. Another leave was bereavement leave. We added unborn child to that leave, and so we were both pleased to be able to do that. And then there are a number of changes that you'll see. They're not really material in terms of changing our operation, but we had recommendations from the state to make some or add some language into the contract that further described movement on the salary schedule, for example. And so those changes were just to get us compliant with the state. And then with all of that, we anticipate that we'll be able to provide for retro pay for teachers, and that would be on the October 22nd paycheck. And so we're pleased about that as well. And with that, the final step will be at the next regular board meeting, which happens to be September the 27th. And at that meeting, we would ask the board to ratify the contract. And prior to that, the teachers, it will have been presented to the teachers as well. And then that will complete the process locally. We will then submit the approved contract to the state on the gateway system, and then that really will end the process for this upcoming 2 years. And so with that, we would respond to questions that you might have.
Thank you, Roger. First and foremost, I know the board would like to say thank you to Mark and CTA. We are thrilled that we have over 80% of our teachers who participate in CTA. CTA has really made great strides in trying to unite the teachers and really be a forefront in representation. And we could not be happier that you've taken this leadership role. We also appreciate the relationship that you have with our administration. And there are situations that we don't always see eye to eye, but it's very respectful and appropriate, and practice civility and really set an example for everybody else in our school district. And so we really appreciate that as well. With regards to the contract, what a breath of fresh air. It is very exciting to see that we have this negotiated contract. I am so thankful that we're able to provide a salary increase, greatest in 20 years, which is amazing. And I do think our I guess, the Governor Holcomb and, our legislators who put a priority on trying to give our school districts as much support as they can at this time, so we can give our teachers the financial, I don't know. We would love to certainly give more, but if what we're able to give, we are so thankful we can do. I like what you've shared about the leaves. It makes sense, and the bereavement leave is pretty significant, and I appreciate that very much as well. And so I just want to confirm what I heard was the retro pay. Once this is approved, that'll be on the October 22nd. And then the board will take a vote then. It'll be presented yet once again on the 27th of September. But in between now and then, this will be presented to CTA for an approval. Has anybody seen it yet, or they won't see it until after? Oh, fantastic. Thank you. So that's kind of my comments. Katie and Mike?
Well, first I just want to echo the sentiments of collaboration. I mean, absolutely, to be able to talk back and forth and share agreements and disagreements in a respectful nature, and I appreciate that, and I know that it takes work to be able to do that, and I know that both sides are putting that in, so thank you very much. My question is about the long-term substitute teachers. Can you explain a little bit about the changes to that?
Absolutely. And so previously in the contract, it indicated that long-term substitute teachers, for the first 15 days of their leave that they're covering, they would be paid sub-pay. Well, that might have worked 20 years ago, but with it being so challenging and difficult to find qualified replacements for medical leave or maternity leave, it's important to us that we give them their teacher pay on day one. Otherwise, they'd get $80 a day for the first 15 days, and then on the 16th day or the 15th day, then they would transition to the teacher pay. So these are licensed teachers that are in these positions, and they're doing the same work as other teachers, so we believe it's important that they're paid as teachers on day one.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll echo the comments on, we appreciate the relationship with CTA and the team and how hard they worked. And I didn't have a question till Katie asked her question. So I assume for long-term subs, the vast majority of them have already been subs for the district, and that they're not, I'm sure there's circumstances where it could occur, but for the most part, they're not hired just for that position, and that's the first time that we retain them.
Yeah, oftentimes because we have outstanding instructional assistants, because we have outstanding and licensed permanent substitute teachers, they oftentimes transition into those leave roles. And however, sometimes we might hire someone, whether it's from another district or someone who hasn't received a job yet and is just a brand new college graduate in some of these roles. So it could potentially, yes, absolutely, it could happen, but oftentimes in Carmel, we're very fortunate that we have outstanding IAs, permanent building subs, other substitutes with teacher licenses, and they are oftentimes the one that transitions into those roles.
And so then what's the difference between a long-term sub and a permanent sub?
So a permanent building sub is a substitute or a person that comes into a specific building. Let's take Carmel High School, for example, and they show up every single day, and they're the first to fill any openings that we have for the day due to a teacher being out due to illness or personal business. So they come to the building every day. A long-term sub would be someone that we hire that we know, let's say, for example, that a teacher's having a baby. We know they're going to be out 6 to 8 weeks or longer, and so we'll hire that person. That would be a long-term sub that would be there for the duration of that teacher's leave.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one other question. And I think the answer is yes, but I certainly would like to clarify. So we have the teacher schedule, and I know by law it's at least 40,000, which we exceed that, which is fantastic. But, do we have the flexibility depending on our need and the experience of a teacher that we hire in, that we can place them someplace else on the schedule?
Yes, a lot of factors go into the placement, the initial placement on the salary schedule. It could be teacher experience, it could be their college attainment with regards to their master's degree, and so we look at all of those factors in totality to determine where we place the teacher on the starting salary schedule, and we do have that flexibility, fortunately, here in Carmel.
Thank you. Are there any other questions this morning?
I also want to add one more thing. Mr. McMichael did a nice job of thanking a lot of people, but it's also due to his leadership that we were able to come together as a group and his wisdom and sharing to bring us here today. So I also wanted to thank Mr. Michael. It is an absolute pleasure working with him, and the knowledge that he brings to his position with his experience has just been tremendous. I learn something from Mr. McMichael every time I have a conversation with him, and we are so fortunate to have him here in Carmel. And then also want to recognize Mr. Wing, because he is just phenomenal to work with, and I appreciate all he does and as the executive board, all that they do for our teachers and for our district.
Thank you, Dr. Osterreich.
I can take a minute as well. Want to add my congratulations to the teams on both sides. One of the things we've struggled with and have spoken quite a bit with a lot of our legislators about is making Indiana a go-to state for educators, and really trying to do everything to make young people want to go into education and be teachers. And it was extremely gratifying. First, I guess we got to thank the citizens who paid a lot of money for different things to get sales tax up to be able to have a good financial forecast for the state and the work that was done there, but also for the state legislators to recognize the need to be competitive and for Indiana to be competitive with states around us in the area of salary, and took a pretty big step, a pretty big swing to make that happen. So we're thankful for them, of course, in providing that funding. And then moving from there, you just can't put a price on collaboration, kind of like what Katie said, that you have the CTA and the administrators here that work together as a team. And that collaborative spirit and that doing the best for our people and joining together for that is something that we don't want to take for granted, and we just want to share that we're real thankful for that. And because I've said this before, the most important thing that happens in our district is when the teacher and the student meet in the classroom. That point of contact is the most important moment of every day. And for us to make those conditions the best that we can make them is all of our jobs. And so I'm just very, very happy that the two sides could go get a workable contract and do it in a timely fashion. And I think that we'll be all back together and retroed up on October 22nd. It's pretty impressive as well. And so this is really a good day in Carmel Clay Schools, historic day. And I'm just thankful for all the pieces that had to come together and the people that made those come together to celebrate this day and this contract. So been doing contracts for a long time, and this one was a really, really good one. One of the best, if not the best, in my career. So congratulations to everybody, and thank you to everybody.
Thank you. And then with that, if there are no, Mike, do you have, nope, okay. With that, seeing that there are no other comments, we will adjourn our meeting. Thank you.